technical rusher.
Help that defense a little bit. You know defense as well as anyone. You work against them every day.
Yeah, I mean, just from a competition standpoint, just another guy in the room, a guy that brings a different, piece of the game, or he specializes in a different piece of the game. So, I think them being able to share their techniques and, just talk about how they go at rushing, it's going to be good.
Stanley, this time last year you were coming
Good.
off and so forth, trying to make your way and gain some traction and so forth. What's it like to be here in this, to be invited to come here in this?
It's truly a blessing. I've talked about it a couple times already, but I was recommended by doctors to just literally be aborted, and my mom made the decision not to do that. And looking back at that, looking here where I'm at now, it's insane for me to think about. I'm at Big Ten Media Day, representing Michigan State. I'm so truly blessed, and not that I always represent that the right way, but just having that little chip on my shoulder that I have a platform that I can just share that message and just share what the big man has done for me. It's an amazing thing. Yeah.
Nick just talked about how faith is such an important part of this team. He said like 80% of you guys, your faith is the most important part of your life.
Yeah.
And would you just talk about that element that doesn't get talked about a lot, but we saw it last year with Ohio State, but they were very strong that way. Will you just talk about that part of your football program?
Yeah. Our faith isn't forced on us. We're comfortable with it. We're comfortable to talk about, the tough things in life and just how God has worked there in those different, scenarios and everything. And just being able to be comfortable talking about that stuff, it's been massive for our team. And, whether it's someone going through a tough time and being able to come together and pray for that person, or, whether it's just finishing every lift or conditioning with a simple team prayer, just thanking God for waking us up and just the crazy opportunity that we have as players here. It's definitely played a massive role in the team.
Hanson told me that one of the things he really learned from Jonathan Smith was how to be a listener. He said he was such a great, coach was such a great listener. What is it about him? I mean, Nick could have gone somewhere for more money, but wants to stay and be with him. What is it about Jonathan? Because he's so respected as a developer of talent. What have you seen?
Just his knowledge of the game, and he's not a coach that's going to lie to you. He's going to tell it to you straight. That's always been something I've been comfortable with Coach Smith about. I'm going into his room. He's going to give me, or he's going to tell me what I need to be told. So, yeah.
Give me a name of a teammate nobody's talking about, but you're like, oh, they're going to be talking about him when this season's over. Maybe two if you got him.
Say Evan Boyd.
That's what Nick just said.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think. There's so many guys I could talk about, and I think just the D-line as a whole.
A lot of new players in that building with you now.
Yeah.
How are they acclimating?
Very, very well. There's a standard that they come in and they see immediately. So, there's a certain pressure when they come in. If you don't want to adapt, then you're probably not going to play here, and just go transfer again.
How would you describe the vibe around the program these days?
Very family oriented. You can look back. We retained a lot of our players, probably a lot more than other teams have, and that's why Michigan State is so special. It's a family-oriented team. It's a gritty team. It's a traditional Big Ten team.
What have you learned about you? Probably need to listen. Just not vocalize as much as I need to listen. Mm-hmm. Just be able to hear something and then put it out there. You talk about, I talked to you about Coach and his ability to build relationships, and Nick turns down more money to stay. But all the players you retained is pretty remarkable. But he keeps his staff, which is another big deal. you see it with not only with you guys, but the guys that work from how he treats them. Would you talk about what it meant to you as a player to keep your staff?
Are you talking about just this past season, no one leaving?
Yeah, I mean,
that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
For any team. You commit to a coach, or sometimes you send up with a coach. You know that coach is going to be there with you, and he's going to be with you along the way, and he's going to develop you. You're going to stay with the same scheme. It's very comforting thing. Yeah.
Just curious, Nick and Jordan both talked a little bit about how their faith is important to them. And when I walked up, you were talking about that a little bit. Is that driven by the culture here, or is it kind of the players that are driving that, or what? How does that even evolve here?
I'd say it's definitely driven by the players. It's not something that's forced upon us by any means. Probably a lot of people grow up, just talking about God or praying before bed and whatnot, and coming to our program, like, people feel more comfortable to talk about it. They feel more comfortable to dive into it, see how it can impact their life, and just in all the different ways. Whether someone's dealing with an injury, whether we're just finishing a run or a lift or whatever it might be. Someone's dealing with something very serious with their family, just relying on their faith, not internalizing those problems, just being able to talk about it and rely on God through it all.
Last question for you. What was your reaction when you found out that you were chosen to come here for this event?
I was so surprised. I talked about this before. I was literally, recommended by doctors to be aborted, and now I'm at Big Ten Media Day representing Michigan State, and it's a blessing. And just something I talk to my mom about all the time. Like, I'm essentially like a miracle child. Like, I should by no means be in this position, but just by the grace of God, I'm here, and just being able to have that platform is such a blessing.
What details of that have you shared publicly?
Up to today, not much. I talked about it a couple times today, but
yeah, I wasn't here for the first part. I was just curious if you could rehash that just a minute or so.
Just my
whatever you were referring to, I wasn't.
Yeah, no. So I was supposed to have serious birth defects. Doctors recommended an abortion to my parents. My mom leaned heavily on her faith. My dad was there for her through the whole thing, leaning heavily on their faith, and they chose to go through with it. They were, worried about whatever. They wanted to have their baby. So, just going from that to representing Michigan State at Big Ten Media Day, it's such a crazy blessing that I can't even describe how thankful I am for it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Would you talk about the game day experience?
Last one, Hondo.
I'm sorry. Would you talk about the game day experience at Michigan State? It's a pretty exciting event, and
Unreal. I remember when I was getting recruited by Michigan State. I think it was the 2021 Michigan State game. That year, I'd been to the Iron Bowl. I was at Alabama, Tennessee, and a couple other big games. And that 2021 game was the best game I've ever been to. And just seeing that's what the Big Ten's all about. It's unreal, and I'm so excited to be a part of that. I'm so excited, to be one of the guys that stayed with Michigan State through it thick and thin, and just, was able to share that success.